Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the best Zerg player from North America, the Canadian in the red. We have Scarlett, facing off against the most relatable Terran out there. In the blue, the People's Terran, Team Liquid's Cure. In a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown between Scarlett's endless Zerg rushes and Cure's masterclass in the war of attrition. I'd first like to win the war of attention by asking you to smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? Jimmy. 1,658 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better as the Reaper comes in to make the first drones and Ling's lives difficult, or ideally, if it has its way, short. But the Reaper just keeping tabs on things, but unable or unwilling to block that third base. Scarlett slipped out a drone well before the Reaper got across and is going to get the third hatch unimpeded. Now the Reaper driven back. Queen, Creep Tumor, Cure. Well, unlike his somewhat flashier teammate Clem, Cure is kind of on the opposite end of the Terran spectrum, though one might argue they're all on there somewhere. But where Clem is more about micro and precision timings, Cure is more about macro and manpower. Whereas Clem is about the sharpest attacks, Cure is more like a sledgehammer or a steamroller. It's not about how many men he loses, it's about how many he can replace them with. A true meat grinder strategy is what we can likely see out of Cure as time goes on. Rarely is he a highlight reel player, but he somehow manages to make those highlight reel matches. Just recently, only barely losing the GSL finals to Hero. And, well, Scarlett now playing more actively, competitively again. The balance designer for Zero Space. But it's been a little bit since they had a beta, though I'm looking forward to more. More news on that soon. Because now we got to talk about now. I said profoundly, I guess. Oh, the Reaper Hellion decides to come by. A little double Brenda bounce. Pops the queens out of the way, gets a Creep Tumor, and refuses to elaborate further. But the 1-1-1, the Destiny Cloud Fizz build is what my hallucinated fever dream self has called it in the past. But a barracks, a factory, a starport, and Banshee's on the way. And this sort of staple build is exactly why Scarlett less intent on aggression, but instead, I'm building up the economy. Already 43 drones and counting. The creep spread moving out. The Hellion's coming in, gonna incinerate one. But not willing to risk it on the others. Pokes away the queens, picks off another Creep Tumor, and Cure perfectly happy to just kind of cut down on the excesses of Zerg expansion while working on securing his own. And it will be Bio. It's going to be Marines. And eventually Medevacs, though it remains to be seen what comes out of the factory, whether it be tanks or Widowbonds. Each has its own benefits and own sort of playstyle. I think it kind of comes down to what Scarlett wants to do. Whether Cure relies more on the tanks or the mines. Though usually you want at least 2 or 3 tanks to start things off. You know, just for safety. Keep them in the backyard or something. Banshee starting to chip away at the 4th hatchery. Quite early from Scarlett to be taking it. But, 4 or 5 more drones getting charbroiled outside the 3rd base. And Cure just working both angles. Scarlett acutely aware of it, but unable to do much more than just box it out for now. And that's kind of the state of Queens. Of perpetual annoyance and some mild insanity. Double Evo chamber on the way. Double NG Bay is already done for Cure. Starts up the 1-1. And we're going directly into a macro game. Scarlett's creep spread already very efficiently out there. The double Banshee in the main, a single queen to deal with it. Already retreats back towards the Spore, which is more for keeping the Banshees away than doing actual damage. Overseers were in production. Yep, making their way all the way back towards the main. The Hellion's still on the edge of things. But Scarlett, only 56 drones, as she's constantly having to deal with the Banshees, the Hellions. Banshees come in, pick off another. 1-1 on the way, plus 1 ranged attack in Carapace. So Scarlett clearly intent on going for the more Roach-based, maybe even Roach-Hydra composition. But roach speed is on the way. Certainly going to be complementing that. And for now, the Banshee's still looking around. There's enough Zerglings. Ooh, that was... Oh, the creep tumors there. Scarlett getting 7 more Overlords, clearly indicating she wants to do a massive swell, even doing some creep drops with the Ovies themselves for the Queens. Get that little extra spot of it. Infestation pit on the way as well. Not going to be the quickest follow-up in the hive, but Scarlett, I feel, has inspired the newest trend of actually adding infestors back into the composition before you go up to hive. Just a couple infestors can completely shut down early medevac pushes against unsuspecting Terrans, or even against Terrans who know they're coming, forcing that extra little bit of respect that Terrans rarely have for anything. Wow, the creep... Using the Overlords to spread the creep further, but the Banshees will shut it down for now. All these little creeper tactics that, 1, sounds weird to say, and 2, that are extremely underutilized. We just need to see the queen drop hatch cancel timings. Well, that would kind of defeat the purpose, because you would have the Overlord for dropping anyways. But a single infestor on the way. Roaches and Ravagers boxing out. Cure, the double dropper. Well, handful of Marines inside. Combat shield, not quite done yet. The Banshees have driven back the creep down the center. So far, the losses are minimal for both sides. Scarlett losing a lot of drones, but replacing them even more quickly. Cure doing a pretty good job of keeping the creep contained, but done very little to actually slow down Scarlett's economy overall. Yeah, Scarlett now with 4 bases. Cure has a 4th command center on the way, clearly building up. The fungal way off the mark. And the Marines will pick up into the medevacs. But both these players more than happy. Honestly, probably prefer building up to that 200 supply. 2 of the most macro players in the game. Spots out the changelings. Scarlett, first upgrade out of the hive is adrenal glands, and now the Ultralisk cavern is on the way. As Scarlett going to be leaning on those most heavy of unit compositions to try to bowl through. And especially since Cure is going for, is this an 8 racks? No. 2 factories on the way, so not an all-in sort of timing. Obviously, there's a 4th base and 73 SCVs, but here comes Cure with the 200 supply 9 minutes in. There are 22 banelings in production, but baneling speed is only halfway done. Scarlett must survive this first attack to get any of that other fancy tech we've been talking about. Cure setting up the slow burn siege push. Hellbats added in from the Hellions earlier, just making it harder and harder to crack this position. The Banshee is still going, but the creep, a continual battle back and forth. There are no Vipers. If Scarlett can get baneling speed, this gets significantly easier, but with no Vipers, this is still going to be a costly fight. There's no 2 ways about it. 2-2 is about to complete. Cure timed this near perfectly. It's starting to encroach on the base right as the greatest upgrade advantage will be attained. Another siege tank on the high ground, half a dozen tanks. Quite a tank line here. Scarlett, nothing up to the north side. The hatchery itself is starting to fall. Here comes Scarlett. Infestors drawn back. Ultralisk popping out of the eggs. Banelings rolling through. Fungal on the ramp, but nothing to connect. But the Ultras might make the difference. Chews through. Ravagers knock out the siege tanks, and the Ultras will tank the rest of the damage. A costly fight for Scarlett, but a winning one. Do we have the battle report, Jim? Yes. Scarlett loses a bit more, but clearing the field and resetting the siege tank count is an overall win. Especially considering that was the fight before Scarlett's hive tech was really online. She doesn't have chitinous plating yet. She doesn't have any other hive tech upgrades. Cure's going to have 3-3, but now the Ultras are something that must be contended with. All right, the elephant in the room, and when I'm not talking about your mother. Meanwhile, 2 more Ultras in production. Ultra speed is on the way. Very important for helping close the distance. It makes them nearly as fast as those Stim Marines and Marauders, even off the creep. But Cure Despite all this, a key point is Cure's economy is untouched. He can keep pumping out the same amount of units, start mixing ghosts into the composition, like the pistachios no one asked for in their salad. Put them on the side. Moving on. Overlord speed on the way, but Scarlett gonna try to bash through. 3 siege tanks. The infestors, very helpful, but I don't think this is a position that's going to be easily cracked at the moment. Zerglings not enough to shut down the drops over to the right flank, and Scarlett has started consuming the map with creep, but Cure's done a great job in shutting that down. A bunch of Overlord drops. 4 Dropper Lords on the way. Anything into the main or even Baneling drops might be an opportunity. The Fungals lines him up, double kill, knocks him down. Cure not even attempting to dodge as the infestors hold it down. And so far, Scarlett at 200 supply trundling around the map with an army, the army to beat. But getting into that entrenched position with this many siege tanks, as well as ghosts now behind. If Scarlett can keep Cure on just 4 bases, there's not that many other locations to expand to. She's had the income advantage for the better part of 10 minutes. She has more money in the bank. She's got 5 Ultras on the field, which eventually the Ultras get countered by Marauders, by Ghosts, but not by a bunch of units just standing there ready to get cloven in twain. Oh my, it's a massacre on the field. Cure looking the wrong way. And 30 supply dead just like that. Liberators, Ghosts above. Other way around, but the Liberators are not going to be enough to drive this back for now. There's another army on the left side. The Ravagers knock down the Liberators. The Ghosts will drive back the rest of the army. But Scarlett, a decisive victory on the field, somewhat blunted by the attack into this base. But another attempt, and the Ultras are just chewing through the command centers. They're going to get a dozen SCVs as they tried to transfer over. There's another command center just added in over here, kind of invalidating some of those efforts. The Dropper Lords are in position. A couple Ultralisks are going to be cut down relatively cheaply. So Scarlett suffering some losses, but keeping Cure's economy in check and making sure he eventually gets to the point he can't rebuild is the closest thing to a win condition in this sort of game. Especially as Scarlett expands to the top right corner as well. 3/4 of the way to the 4-corner bingo strategy. 5 Ultralisks in production. So far, 5 have been lost, but there's still several on the field. And by that I mean 1. The Hero-Lisk moving forward. The glaring target, Parasitic Bomb on the Medivacs, might be enough to kill him outright, especially if Cure... Oh no, no quarantine means 3 Medivacs die to the splash damage. The Dropper Lords, a Nidus in the back, nothing in it. Neither player really paying attention to it at the moment. A single ult, nope, go back in. Well, actually the Ultra getting close enough to the Ghosts. There is no detection though, the Ghosts and the Marines and Marauders eventually take it down. Another attack to the right and left side while Cure's distracted down the center, takes out the Planetary Fortress at the 9 o'clock. Ultras cleaving through to the north. Ultras closing the distance. The Fungal's not enough to hold it in place. The Snipes will counter and blast away some of the Ravagers, but another 10 SCVs dead. More Ultras, more Zerglings in production. Scarlett finishes the base to the top right corner, starts a Spire into production. And so far, Scarlett maintains the initiative, but Cure still has more than enough economy and production to be very competitive here. 2 Spires on the way. That Ghost count, 13 Ghosts. And who are you going to call? Apparently not this Ultra trip. Well, just accepting its fate. A dozen Banelings on the way, added into the composition. Another Nidus, this one a tactical Nidus in the top right corner. Cure scrambling, trying to figure out where it is, but another one in the main, and Cure suffering from success. He's maxed out. He has no units popping out of the racks, and not enough back at home to defend. Scarlett tries to take advantage of this. Moving forward, a couple Ultras gone down, but 6 more follow it up. Blinding Cloud on the siege tanks, Parasitic Bomb on the Medivacs. The Ultras will chase the army all the way back past the 3rd, into the natural for now. The reinforcements, the concave is good, but the Infestors coming up. There's still a couple Fungals ready. Ultras starting to get cut down as the Zerglings are thinned out. Interrupts enough of the Snipes to get a few more, but Scarlett ends up eventually being driven back. A costly fight for both sides. but Scarlett's able to refill more easily. Cure ended up losing 6 ghosts, 7 Ultralisks down. Another base denied, mining 29 SCVs dead. And Scarlett is now actually mining from the top right corner, and Cure has no idea. An ambitious base, the creep, wave after wave, spreading forward. The creep extending so far is helping protect these bases. It's going to draw attention from Cure and the hubris to take the base in the top right corner, but Cure simply can't put enough units on the field now, especially if forced to draw attention back to the main. Cure actually has a Nidus defense team here in order to deal with exactly that, which is drawing some more and more army supply from the front. But here comes Scarlett. Another ramp is found. 3-4 bases up here, but almost no army. Cure scrambling back from the third, but the orbital's going to be overrun. The siege tank's cut down. The banelings roll through. The ghosts finally get into position, but Scarlett just cleaves through the planetary fortress. It's going to cost an ultra or two. May indirectly draw the army up to the top right corner, but Cure still struggling, just being choked out in his own base. But he's mining again from the left side. 138 to 92 army supply, as Cure, with mules, at least has something of an economy at the moment. But Scarlett, for 10 minutes straight, has had a decisive income advantage and has been leveraging it well. The economic sledgehammer that Scarlett keeps bringing down in the form of Ultralisks. Yes, the Ultras getting sniped out almost every single fight. But if every fight she's able to deny a base, kill SCVs, and cut down on the army supply, that eventually translates into a victory. The Ultra's still trundling around. It's 12 ghosts, only a couple liberators, 15 marauders added in. A lot of those Ultras are badly bruised now. The Widowmine's gonna thin things out, the ghosts, but some of the snipes interrupted. The Ultra's able to cut through. You can hear the dramatic ghost dying again. They won't shut up about it. And Scarlett mining the gas from the bottom left and the top right corner is huge. And now with a Spire, a greater Spire on the way, as well as +2 flyer, Scarlett's going to have access to both sides of the tier 3 tech. And eventually the Broodlord finishing move may be what's needed to eliminate this composition. But for now, 5 more Ultras is the choice. 22 have died. But so far, I think they've gotten the job done. And that creep spread is now extended over at least 2/3 of the map. Actively encroaching on Cure's northern base. That bottom left corner finally being taken out by a Bioforce. Scarlett with 5 Corruptors on the way. I think lining up for a switch into the Broods after potentially wiping out the Liberators. If you don't add the Corruptors in, it just gets more and more difficult to deal with the sheer amount of starport units, though Scarlett has not been having that much trouble so far. Blinding Cloud on the planetary doesn't matter too much at point-blank melee range. That's so many Ultras. 10 Ultralisks. Though the Ghosts and Marauders are going to cut down on that number significantly. More Ultras replacing the ones lost, up to 25 lost now. Cure just simply doesn't have an... The Infestor. The snickering. Alright. Tough to breathe. But the Marines and Marauders, the Ghosts up to the north side. The Bio Ball continues rolling around. 162 supply of very angry Terran. You might be like, aren't they angry by default? And the answer is, of course, yes. But now this, as Cure tries to land his command center, he will realize that Scarlett has already mined like 30 to 40% of this base. It's been several minutes. This didn't just start. And the Ultras are coming around again. A Nidus at the back. A couple Marauders in position to deal with it. More Ultras coming up. The Ghost lining up a volley of hits. Knocking out one of them. Blinding Cloud pushes more units into the Ultras. The Ghost showing their value here. Another Infestor goes through. Oh no. The Bio Ball wins the day. And Scarlett, 6 more Ultras. As an arguably great man, Hydra once said, when I'm really far ahead and I want to lose, I build Ultras. And, well, Scarlett with 9 more Ultras in production, 2 Infestors. 34 dead so far. Some of the most Ultras I've ever seen in a single game. And we're not done yet. The Widow Mine will actually be activated on the Changelings, which have yet to figure out what their life goal will be. Have to come in vision range of a Terran building or unit. But the creep spread is still... So, the ramps and the lanes of this map making it very difficult for Scarlett to actually close the game out with the Ultralisks. Almost every attack path is some sort of tiny ramp or choke point that makes it very difficult to move through. But so far, well, if Cure mined this base for very long, Scarlett has a relatively fresh mining base. Hey, Brenda, should we all really have this much energy? Are you complaining about not working, Susan? All right, I can find a job. All right, you want to go to the front lines? Keep complaining. Oh, well, that's not very nice of you, Brenda. I'm not paid to be nice. You're getting paid? I don't... sorry, I am blacked out for... The scan spots the corruptors. The threat... I mean, the answer still goes. Oh, and speaking of, the infestors. Get a cut. The Ultras get the rest. One infestor pops up. Gets taken out immediately. The line of Widowmine missiles firing off, but there's still enough infestors to be a threat on the back line. Throws it out, but can't close the distance. Ultras just chewing through, but the Liberator overhead uncontested. Liberator taking out one of the Ultras almost a second. Doing a lot of damage and punching through the copious armor the Ultras have built in. But Scarlett still has the mining from both sides of the map. The Queen's finally finding purpose in life, transfusing the Ultras after another hard-fought battle. 38 Banelings in production. Here again, finding another one of those choke points. This one, no ramp though, so a little bit easier to work your way through. The Banelings rolling in, fungal lands. Infestors helping out from the back, and the Overseers drawing the Widowmine hits it. The Infestors fungal, but that's no more energy for Snipe. There's almost no ghost left. And suddenly, Scarlett is just cleaving through absolutely everything. The Ultras sweeping through the field. It only takes one fungal to turn the tides. And then from there, a wave of Ultras just rolls across through the Terran army. A Nidus over to the left side, where Scarlett is expanding to whatever mineral she could get a hold of. A wave of snipe. The Ultras cut down yet again. 40 Ultras dead so far. But just economically squeezing Cure out of this game. Burrowed Banes. Remember that one time Scarlett used Burrowed Banes against Bomber? Yeah, that was 11 years ago in 2014. Fun fact. But against Cure, no, the Infestors! Oh no! Possibly the most important units to keep alive at this stage. Building energy is quite difficult with the Infestors, a little easier with the Vipers, but barely any gas to spare for Scarlett. Only 200 in the bank. The Ultra's coming forward. Cure using the last of his overwhelming army supply. He can't really replace it. He has almost no income. But Scarlett, where is her army? There are 4 more Ultras in production. Parasitic Bomb on some of the medevacs. The Infestors in a precarious position. And up for one fungal. That could help out a lot. The Ultra gets a couple swipes off, but that's it. The Corruptors overhead. More Corruptors coming out. More Ultras trundling down. There's no more medevacs. The Zerglings overrunning. Just out in front, 2 more Ultras. No more medevacs. No more snipes. And I think Scarlett's done it. In this, unburrows the Banelings, closes in, and finally, after 25 minutes, after 51 Ultras, 505 Zerglings. Scarlett. It may not have been cost effective, but it certainly was effective. 63,000 resources lost in just 25 minutes. Mining 18,000 more minerals and 11,000 more gas, and Cure just couldn't find the antidote. Oh, I was scared for a moment. I thought it was going to be one of those games where the Zerg looks like they're playing such a great game and then ghosts. And all credit to Cure for hanging on that long, but Cure is very difficult to dislodge. Better than pretty much every other Terran at just continually putting units on the field. Not necessarily controlling them the most efficiently, but just finding a way to stretch those minerals and gas as thinly as possible and stay in the game and sometimes just outlast your opponent. But not this time. This time Scarlett is able to overrun. Though I might question the efficacy of dozens upon dozens of Ultralisks, I don't question the entertainment value. Though I might question whether sending waves upon waves into planetaries instead of going Broodlords is the strongest path. I still don't question whether it's fun to watch. So, true North American Zerg. All right. We will batter down the door or die trying. And one wave of Ultras would have been all it took for Cure to turn it around. But there just wasn't anything left in the bank. I think not the first, but one of the major fungals, mid-game, that entire clump of bio, like 30 supply of bio, just getting completely eviscerated by the Ultralisk. That is when Scarlett took the initiative. And the Ultras, it's a hard call to make, because if you keep going Ultras, you may just lose because of it. Obviously. There's a reason that saying is a thing. Even though Ultras have been buffed-ish since then. But hold on. The other option is Lurkers, but those are quite hard to make work, especially on a map full of choke points. Somewhat paradoxically, Lurkers work better on the open field for the most part. It's a little easier for Terran to set up in a choke point scenario. Not a little easier, but with Liberators and Ghosts, it's a lot easier for them to control the concave. Ultras just come barreling in like the Kool-Aid man. Whereas Lurkers are something you have to slip around or sneak in or send through a Nidus. Though, Lurkers in the main definitely could have made the difference. Anyways, Game 2, Leylons. Another very macro map. Though I wouldn't be surprised if that was every map with these two. Almost gets a Zergling. Scarlett not going for the creep tumor first. Instead, leans on the inject. Three command centers, barracks, factory, starport. The only question remains whether it's Cloak Banshee or not. Creep tumor off to the side. Queen boxing out. Making sure the Reaper doesn't get anywhere. No. Where are you going? No. Getting a little spicy. Always playing hard to get. What's it gonna be? Starport, Tech Lab. And Cloak? Doesn't have the gas for quite a bit. Just having a Banshee at all and showing it forces almost the same level of response as having Cloak. There's no way for the Zerg to know for sure whether you're researching or have researched Cloak until you show it, so you cannot risk being caught. Whoa! The drones. At an awkward time, but manages to dodge into the Spore Crawler. And Cloak is on the way. Oh, wait a second. Oh no, the Evo Chamber block! Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, drone. Doesn't quite get it. Lair is on the way, anticipating the need for potentially overseers. Queen's just standing sentry. The Queen defense teams on either side. Usually 3 of them apiece once you get up there. Just enough to make sure the Hellions and Reapers don't think about isolating any of them individually. Oh, well, Kier very much on point with the 4th base denial. The Banshee showing up the moment the 4th hatch started. Scarlett with the cancel. But any delay on the 4th base definitely can be felt. It was interesting last game. Well, Scarlett did end up going for Roaches and Ravagers to start. Phased them out pretty quickly. So, Roaches and Ravagers are much more larva efficient. They're a lot, like, the potential opportunity, the risk is lower, but the reward is also lower. Roaches and Ravagers are just a stable quantity. Lings and Banes, or the Ling Bane style, can definitely be a higher reward, more counterattack potential, like so, or more potential damage. But it also... What? You bribed that SCV? Philly! Oh, how many times? You gotta stop answering those emails! The Zerglings just get in because the SCV seemed to open the door for them. Well, it wanted to go build a depot outside, and that cost them. Well, Kira gonna get... Whoa, the Banshee? This is restricted lair space. You can get off my creep. Did you get your revenge, Brenda? Hell yeah, brother. Not a good look, Brenda. Not a good look. No. Roaches. Now, Scarlett, 69 drones, a very nice baseline economy for working your way up the tech tree, and adding a whole bunch more. Arguably too many. It's 80 drones at 6-7 minutes, especially after losing that much, potentially sets her up for vulnerability. That is really pushing it to deal with this first Marine tank timing. And Cure going to be targeting the alternative 4th base up to the 9 o'clock position. Roach is complete. A 1-1 on the way for both sides, but Cure about a minute faster. Banshee's back! The surviving Banshee, of course. Small Zergling counter. Where are the medevacs? Coming across the map. Cure boosting him forward. There's no response. The Marines are here. 1-1 is done. There's no combat shield, but that's not enough Roaches. With the upgrades, those Marines are cost-effective even against the Roaches. And with that siege tank in the back, the Ravagers are on the way. The base is already halfway gone. The Roaches eating some big hits. The Queen's also taking a pounding. One of them obliterated. Getting to the front of the base, but the hatchery's under fire. Corrosive bile rains through, knocks out the tank. And Scarlett. What a save! The base is saved at the last possible moment. Just a second or two before it would have been taken out by the Marines, and maybe the tank as well. And a hive is in production. 1-1 now done for Scarlett. Hey, in the... Changeling's taken out, but the medevacs are spotted. Scarlett. Anticipating the drop on the left and reacting to the one on the right. But Cure still has 2-2 on the way. 2 siege tanks at a time, clearly. Ah, here we are. You want a piece of meat, boy? Hey, where's your combat shield? I left it at home. I left it in the supply depot. That's where you get it, right? The armory? That's where I left it in the armory. The armory's for mech weapons. What? No, why would the engineering bay be for infantry and the armory for mech? That doesn't make... We don't pay you enough to question this. All right, stop it. I don't... Sorry, Marines working their way forward, and the hatchery just implodes under the withering fire. The Zergling counterattack into the third. Scout with a lot of money in the bank. The Roach is moving forward, but quite a concave of Marines. 2 tanks taken down. Infestor reveal, but the Zerglings are in the base. A whole lot of SCV is going to go down. Unless Scarlett gets distracted by the Marines, but target firing many of the SCVs. Kier loses 10. The counterattack, relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. There's only 2 siege tanks. Fungals could be devastating. Throws it out. Is only mildly inconveniencing instead. It's just going to be the Mass Roach Ravager. Still raining down the corrosive biles. Not quite enough. There's too many dudes with drugs, guns, and a hatred of illegal aliens. And enough about my neighbors. But the Marines going to be forced back at not enough medevac energy to continue to enable their habit of stimming every single time something mildly startles them. And now, an Ultralisk cavern is yet again on the way. For better or for worse for Scarlett. The amount of... What? The Banshee's back! Somehow the Banshee... That's enough. A Changeling, a Drone, an Infestor, and 36 Roaches and Ravagers walk into a bar. Don't worry, there are Marines behind the counter. Double drop headed back towards the main Scarlet's creep spread. Lacking luster, as Cure has done a great job of keeping the pressure on. Scarlett does have money in the bank, but now 2 less queens and probably, 1 less hatchery. The Fungals missed the mark. Well, the Fungal didn't. The Corrosive Bile's unable to follow it up. The Infestor's going forward. Throws out a Fungal. Optimistic. This hatchery already bruised from the battering earlier. And now very likely going to go down. Are there any Vipers? No. The Roaches and Ravagers in a terrible position. Scarlett only at 1-2 upgrades. Has the Carapace now trying to shore that up. Expands to the center and to the south. Still has 80 drones, but Cure has a 4th base and 77 SCVs. Cure's endless manpower continues, just grinding its way across the map. Willing to throw so much at the problem and continue to expand behind. It's not a flashy style of Terran, but it's an effective one. The drop coming in. Are the Marines confident they can win this fight? Cure seems to think so. I'm not as convinced. Cure reevaluates. 2 Ultras on the way, but Scarlett definitely in a tough position. Despite being at 200 supply with money in the bank, the Roach Ravager has kind of reached its expiration date. Against this many siege tanks, it gets more and more difficult to actually make it work. She hasn't transitioned into... Ooh, that corrosive bile, though. Knocks a couple medevacs out of the sky. That's a pretty decent win. But without Lings and Banes, it gets harder and harder to take cost-efficient fights. The Roaches are a known quantity, and they're just not that good en masse against upgraded Marines, Marauders, and Siege tanks. That is so much Terran. Cure just putting it all together. Another scattering of corrosive bile. Gonna try to ward it away. Burrow move is on the way. Burrow's already done. Going to try to lean on those Roaches further and Scarlett. Ultras coming forward, chewing through the Marines and Marauders. Isolated groups easily take it out. But behind it, the sheer DPS density. The withering fire of the Marines and Marauders, as well as the siege tanks. A single Roach on the other side scratching the paint of a supply depot. 5 more Ultras in production. But plus 3-3, now completed. Some incredibly, well, the best upgrades you can get for the Marines and the Marauders. Plus 2 mech weapons is coming up as well. Now, Roaches and Ravagers. Scarlett has exhausted her bank, continually trying to expand to the sides. More corrosive bile. Raining down on the tanks, but takes out some more of the medevacs. Another Ultra pushing through the front. And it's a costly fight indeed. And more Marines and more Marauders to the north side as well. The reinforcements try to contest it. But the medevacs overhead keeping the Marauders intact. Scarlett may have won the battle, but I think she's losing the war. The medevacs will pick up the VIP citizens and leave the rest to run home on their own. Oh, sweet liberty. Another base. Cancelled. Restarts. The Ultra. exploderated by the Marines and Marauders. The roaches sneaking their way in. They get into the main base. It's something like this. Scarlett needs to reset the initiative. She needs to retake some sort of control over this game, which she hasn't been able to have pretty much the entire time so far. Infestors. Marines, Marauders, down to the south side. The Ultralisks are a unit for forcing the Terran to respond to you, not the other way around. They're just unwieldy as an attacking unit. But the Bromu Roaches in the main, unburrowing at the natural as well. Ghost now added into the composition. The double siege. Gonna make it so difficult to dislodge. The Roaches in the main, living up to their names. Incredibly annoying to deal with. There's always one more of them, at least. Liberators now. All it takes is one mineral patch being caught in. That can be enough to deny a base entirely. Barely moves away in time. This is going to be a very difficult... Oh, here! Cloven through by the Ultralisks, but... this siege. A couple of the infestors to the north, but here's adding on some missile turrets in order to have vision of the infestors if they come close. Detection. Can Scarlett break out of this position? The jaws of Terran are closing in, and the jaws of the Ultralisks are a long way off. Well, the Ultra's coming up. No siege tanks to cover quite that closely. There is a Spire done, but Scarlett, no Corruptors, as really struggling. And they go, oh, catches 5 of the Ghosts. Another Infestor coming up. A massive Fungal. And another one. It changed through. About as perfect as it could ever get. Knocks down the Liberator. Another Ultra coming in. And Scarlett actually clears the field. What? What a play. And almost a certain select all army hockey as Cure. Oh. Cure has 12 more Ghosts. Oh, no. Well, the Infestors come out. Half a dozen gonna get caught. Corrosive Bile actually knocks out. I'm not sure if it was the Corrosive Bile, the snipes, or everything in between, but a Roach in the main. More Roaches in the natural, but Cure, Scarlett did everything she could. I don't know if it was enough. Still down 30 supply, as Cure had reinforcements ready. His economy is still good enough. There are 4 orbital commands, which is not an overwhelming number, especially when you consider the need to scan for infestors. Scarlett making 12 more drones, which is optimistic at this stage. Adrenal glands is done. No, there is a Baneling nest. Multiple Whittle Mines, though, could be devastating. Draws out some of the hits. No infestors to follow this up, unfortunately. But the Ghosts slowly but sure... Oh, they have Cloak. Oh, no. Goes right over the Infestor. It now has enough energy for Fungal. And that could make all the difference. That could be huge. Throws it out. But is there enough damage? And now the Overseer. So many Ghosts dying. 17 so far this game. 11 Ultras. Another wave. Cure almost leans into it. The Overseer is so slow. It's so weird to see him at this stage without Overlord speed, but Scarlett is not rolling in minerals nor gas. Another Infestor. A Cyril Fester in position. But 3 more Ultras on the way. The thing is, the army's so spread out. I mean, I can't believe it's not butter. Fungals from the front, yanking in some of the Liberators, but to what end? They can reset. And more Ultras coming out, but the Terran army just grinding through. Scarlett, pulling out all the stops. But the steamroller of Terran just continues. There are 5 more Ultras on the way. The Infestor popped up. It has full energy. Popped up mid-fight and burrowed right back down, realizing that this was not the fight it wanted to be part of. Unfortunately, there's not going to be many more fights at this rate, especially since Scarlett just typed GG. It's all tied up. 1-1. Cure keeping the momentum from the first pressure to the GG. Scarlett with some brilliant moments, but not enough to turn the tide. Well, we see both these players very much able to press an advantage, making it very difficult to actually turn things around. Feeling pretty evenly matched at this stage, but the problem with Ultras, they're when you're ahead, break down the door and take everything they own unit, not a try to claw your way back. It's so difficult to fight with a weaker army composition, including the Ultras there. But still, I really didn't think she'd break out of that double siege. So. Well, Game 3, Tokamak. It all gets decided here. It's from Wardy's Monday. I'm just happy to see both these players playing in the weekly tournaments again. Make sure to check out Wardy whenever you get the opportunity. And you might be like, when is that opportunity? It's like most of the time. Wardy works so hard. I literally couldn't do it without him. I'd say about at least 50% of the games you see here, especially the ones that aren't the most major tournaments, are a result of Wardy's efforts. So it'd be awesome if you could at least give him a follow over on Twitch. Links in the description. Jimmy, in the description. I know no one reads it, but at least we can say we have it there. All right. No, you don't need Chat GPT. What's wrong with you? Yeah, Wardy with 3 eyes, obviously. Duh. No, I didn't ask him why. Feels like a personal reason. At least it has search engine optimization. What are you going to search? StarCraft Winter? Okay, that's like every 3rd tournament for the last 15 years. What idiot would put that as their name? Kira. Reaper first, Scarlett. Hatch first. Here we are again. This map, one of our few that has multiple levels, like 3-4 levels, where the Reaper can dance around. Also contributes to it being a much more turtley map once we get past that 4 base mark. Though the effective difference between having 1 or 2 levels above someone is not significant. Either you have high ground vision or you don't. So. I've always been back and forth, especially after playing a lot of Age of Empires 2, as well as Beyond All Reason. High ground and the advantage is, I don't like Brood Wars, which is like 50% mischance or something like that. But Age of Empires, you have about 25% more damage, I believe, from the high ground. Beyond All Reason, since almost everything is either projectiles or lasers, the angle, like you can have more effective range on units on high ground using that gravity and such. You know, physics and all that boring stuff. Math. Yeah. Third base completed. Liberator on the way. Hellions trying to sneak in as well. There's only 3 Zerg. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Another queen coming down. Tries to get to the high ground. It's not great. This is... It could be worse. few more Zerglings on the way. Scarlett not getting baited into overbuilding, but... And then, oh no. The Hellions at the third. The Zerglings coming up to deal with it. Hellions are back in the main. The Zerglings actually get the wraparound. Should be able to kill off these Hellions. Evolution Chamber. Oh my. It just... Oh, hell no. Even more damage. Well, the total is 6 drones and 8 lings for 4 Hellions. Or 3 Hellions and a Reaper. 1 Hellion survived. Tell its friends. The glorious actions on the other side of the map. Could have been worse. Certainly not great. A lot of mining time lost as well, which is usually one of those non-factors. But in this case, like having over 30 seconds of not mining from some bases is quite significant. Hellions headed across the map. The Liberator as well. Scarlett with only 10 Zerglings. Oh, Cure actually hid the sheer amount of Hellions. So, the Liberator gonna siege up. The Spore Crawler not quite reacting in time. Unfortunately, oh no, Brenda, no! Oh no, loses a queen. 4 drones. It's not great. Oh, Scarlett. Okay, so it's not great. We're about a minute off a medevac push. Scarlett does not have any tech. She's about to lose more and more drones. That's definitely I don't want to play this game anymore. That's like a ladder tap out there, more than anything. Like, the Liberator being in that position, losing the queen. It's understandable, but I've got to give it a yellow card here. As, yep, just not dealing with it anymore. The queens are completely out of position. The Liberator's going to play footsies with the Spore. Still definitely too early. Scarlett likely dies to the follow-up medevac push. Which the reactor finishes, medevacs come out, all this comes together. She doesn't have Evo Chamber. She doesn't have a Bane Nest. Almost certainly. We got to play out until then. All right. So, a bit of a disappointing conclusion after such a dramatic start. But Kira wins the day 2-1 with a classic Terran barbecue. Scarlett showing that she can still hang with him. But unfortunately, getting a bit tilted out of the game and the series. So, we'll hopefully still made your day just a little bit better. What do you think? Too early? Understandable? Both? That's my opinion. But if you got the means and motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy, Devin, Dor, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Hope I made your day a little bit better. Stay chill.